Welcome my dudes, this is SegaGenesis speaking, and welcome to the final 9 out of 9 video comparison of The Simpsons Bart versus the Space Mutants for the Sega Game Gear versus a Sega Master System. The reason why the Master System is being used here is because the Game Gear is just a clone of the Master System. So if you're interested in seeing the major differences between the NES versus Sega Game Gear, go watch NES versus Sega Genesis for more detailed info. This video will only point out the slight changes between the Master System versus the Game Gear and hope you enjoy. I'm going to do my best to point everything out, or at least show everything in case I miss anything, but obviously things move rather quickly, so right from the start the Game Gear actually has a pause button, which is pretty amazing, but obviously this is most likely a few months, if not over a year, after the release of the Master System, so, you know, you would think that slight changes like the pause button would actually be there, since the Game Gear actually has more than 2 buttons / a D-pad, but anyways, the other thing is, when you scroll through your items, you actually have to scroll to your score points in order for you to see the score, which is kind of funny. The reason why I don't like the Sega Game Gear whatsoever, even though I have one major flaw that I actually love that no other game has, is the fact that the camera is just beyond horrible. So as you can tell by the image itself, the mutants are slightly changed. A lot of the dialogue has also changed, probably because they either wanted to speed things up, or there was really no point on showing everything, or there was just no way of showing everything when it comes to text-wise. As you can tell, right from the start, the Game Gear has the image really blurred if you see it directly with the Master System, so that's definitely either something I didn't notice or just forgot, because it's not really a problem. But your last life in this version is actually 0, and the one thing that makes this game extremely horrible is the fact that they placed Bart right smack in the middle of the game. So instead of putting him on the far left, or, you know, closer to the left screen, they instead chose to put him right in the dead center. So the reason why this version is rather difficult, if not slower, is because you need to know when the enemies will be popping out. Mainly this affects the mall because of the rolling wheels, that you just constantly take immediate damage because you just have no way of predicting when what is going to show up, other than just by simply moving and stopping, moving and stopping. So as you can tell, the UI is very different. The NES, you can actually tell what every number means, even though I don't like it very much. It's the same thing for the Game Gear, nothing has changed. In fact, while trying to do my homework for this game, I kept mixing up which number was which. So the very first number on the bottom, right after the Maggie text would show up, that right there is the number of goals that you need to do for the game. The following number is how many 1-ups you have, and obviously the next number after that is the timer for the game. As simple as that sounds, sometimes while doing homework or just searching up information can mix things up sometimes, or at least for me. So I had quite a number of trouble when it came to that. The timer is the same. So that's not going to change. It's still 600, although the goals for every single level is exactly the same except for one level, which I'll point out, which is the mall. Right here, if you look at Jebediah's dialogue, it's changed. It just says, "Good job, young Simpson," and that's it. So right here, as you can tell by the camera, look how weird it changes when I start turning left. But as you can tell, the camera is further in front of Bart, and when he turns around, the camera goes away from Bart and not leave him dead center. And then as soon as I get off of the skateboard, you'll see that Bart will be placed right back in the middle. So the reason why this is such a horrible idea is, again, because you can't really tell where the enemies are going to show up, so you have to constantly go and stop, which is super annoying. Like, one easy fix would have just been place the camera as far away from Bart, and the game would have been totally fine, but for whatever dumb reason, they did not do that. Right here in the Quickie Mart, the 1-up on the E does exist in this game. No sound test for any game besides the NES. Not really sure why they ended up not putting that in. But other than that, there really isn't much different, and that's the reason why the Game Gear is being compared with the Master System, because if you look at it, you know, seeing each other, you can just see how much the same it is. There's nothing different about it besides one major glitch that neither the Genesis or the Master System have. But see if I'm missing anything else. As far as I know, I don't. You still have to pick up all of the goals. You have no way around that. Here is the first boss of Springfield. And you can move during the score count as you could in the Master System. So if you look at the text, it'll either be different or the same. I did not read any of the text for the beginning cutscenes of every level, so there's that, I guess. Besides the Jebediah, where I know for a fact it's changed. So right here, there is no changes whatsoever. I just end up farming the Marge letters right in the start, even though I was pretty dumb because you have to fight 3 mini-bosses, and the mini-bosses also drop tokens. Really, the only difference in this level is the fact that instead of having to press down in action or down in the use button for the Master System, you can actually just press down and automatically enter the hat secret room that this game has, which is, I found pretty neat. Everything else is obviously the same. There's really zero difference. Obviously, you can see less of the game, so everything had to be a lot closer, but everything's just as equally as bright. I want to say that the only reason why they use so many colors is because it's something that the NES could not do, so they just wanted to hype up how much of everything the console could do, instead of just, you know, leaving it with one color, I guess you can say. So there's the giant escalator still. So right here, you can just immediately press down and enter the trash can where the secret room is located. Besides that, everything is literally the same. I also wonder why they ended up having that big blue bar that the Master System has. I was thinking of removing that both for the Genesis comparison and this comparison, but because the bar is there and the NES also has it, I decided to just keep it because that's what the game has been played. I am going to point some things out that I simply do not know if they actually end up existing in the actual Game Gear version of this game, since I did not play it off of an actual Game Gear. I used an emulator. Some of the things I question whether if it actually would happen or not, but because it happened to me, I'm going to show them, and I don't really see why something as weird as, like, graphical glitches or other weird things. I can't really think of anything besides graphical glitches that the next level has would happen in the... why it wouldn't happen in the original console, but, you know, doesn't matter. I'm gonna be pointing them out, see what you guys think. This is the final version that I'll be doing, so right there, as you can tell, I took damage because I just could not tell when the stupid bags are gonna be coming in. This one, again, is the only reason why it was so hard to speedrun was because I just could not tell when something was coming in. So, and I also have no idea why it looks so blurry. I honestly have no problems with it, but I also didn't know until I showed one screen with the other, and I was like, oh damn, it really does look extremely blurry. I'll also be pointing out something extremely weird that was happening to me, and only in one level, which is the next one. See if anyone can tell me whether if it actually happens in the actual game or not, but either way, this is the third floor out of 4, the fourth one having the boss. So again, this is the last one. There will be one more bonus video explaining why or how the personal ranking works, but as of comparison, this is the final one. Finally, after a few months of doing this, since I want to say December, this is the final one. So for anyone that's been watching right up until now, congratulations. Really do want to give you guys a round of applause for anyone that has been watching. I've been doing my best to show everything off, but, you know, here we go. Moving on to the third level, which is the circus. So the circus is the only level that has a different set of goals. So the Master System actually has 30, and the Game Gear has 22. I have no idea why they ended up lowering the amount of goals, but they did. So shooting these darts is actually super weird. So as you can tell, the dart actually ended up hitting the very top mask, but for whatever reason it didn't count, so the hitbox is slightly different. So right here, the balloon minigame does not count towards your goals, so regardless if you want to play the minigames or not, they don't count towards your goals, so the only reason you would want to play them is to get the 1-up, if you really need it. The aliens obviously look the same, the X-ray looks exactly the same. Here, if you pay attention to the UI, you won't really see it much other than in one spot, but right here, the only reason why I'm moving back and forth is because this is the only spot where you can actually farm for the Lisa tokens. So if you want Lisa to help you for the boss, you actually need to farm it right here, which is the only spot where they actually end up spawning. But if you pay attention to the UI where it says X-ray specs, sometimes you'll see things there that shouldn't be there. So right here, as I go up the ladder, you can actually see Bart through the X-ray and over the 18. So what's hilarious about this is the fact that the X-ray specs text is above while everything else is below. Sometimes when you miss the little mini game there where you need to hit the thing, you could basically barely see it, where graphical glitch actually ends up happening where text or other images that aren't supposed to be there appear. Not really sure why something like that even happens, or even why they ended up choosing the way they chose the UI to appear. So here, if you appear from the top, you actually appear on the next side of the tent in the same location where you were when you jumped. Here, instead of getting 9 balloons, you actually end up getting 5. And if you look at the background, you actually saw Itchy, I believe it's the mouse's name, on the far left as you entered the minigame, and then Scratchy's over on the further right. So they're actually off screen until you end up winning. Not really sure why that was the way they did it. Other than the fact that they didn't want to make Itchy and Scratchy a little bit smaller, so they just kept the size and just put them over on the sides, which is hilarious. There I end up spawning, so I just end up teleporting myself over to the right side because I just couldn't get the actual platform to jump on the right, to jump towards the right to reappear after I died. So that was slightly weird. Here the birds are back, but for whatever reason, the birds don't actually end up damaging you, so you can touch them, no problem. So right here, if you pay attention to the screen, after every balloon pops up, the screen will actually end up getting darker. I have no clue if this actually happens in using an actual Game Gear or not, but if you can please tell me, I would actually appreciate it, because look, every single time a balloon reappears, only in this screen does the screen actually get darker. And the very next one right here, the screen goes so dark that I cannot see anything, and I actually end up dying right there. You can actually see Bart dying, and then the light reappears. And then, there you go. I have no clue. While I actually end up speedrunning this game, that light does affect the speedrun if for whatever reason you don't have enough balloons by the time you get to the end where you need to farm. So I think the 4th balloon is when the entire screen goes black, so you need to have at least 3 balloons at the end so that doesn't happen, but I could be wrong. That is by far the weirdest thing that this entire game has, is the fact that not the UI glitch, not the graphical glitch, but that where the light just seems to want to disappear. Like, that's probably the main reason why I would not mind playing the original versions of this game the way they were meant to be played, because it's just, some of the things that have happened to me is just beyond odd. So in this level, you can actually end up seeing the UI thing happen the most. So there you can see some of the x-rays go through. Sometimes you'll see items that aren't even supposed to be there to go through. I think right here going towards the first gator, you'll end up seeing a red ray in the UI. Let me see if I can point it out for you or not, because I honestly don't know if I had shown any of that or not. But yeah, right there, you can see the red ray just appear through the clock in your amount of lives. I just have no clue, but this level definitely shows off the fact that you'll see enemies or Bart himself go through the UI, and he'll appear below whatever UI item you have, so either be the X-ray or the slingshot and whatnot. The most. Other than that, everything else is the same. Nothing is different about this version. I have no idea if some of the checkpoints are different locations or not, but As far as I know, all of the locations are in the exact same spot as the Master System, but I did end up pointing all of the checkpoints out, or as many as I could possibly find myself, both for any version that I've been comparing with a different one that wasn't the NES and the original comparison. So here would be the Master System and the Game Gear. I obviously do not mention when the checkpoints appear, but the text checkpoint will obviously appear. Here it's the same thing. Hands come out and the snake platform floor, whatever the heck you want to call it, is the exact same thing, where it extends further than you actually can see. One little minor difference right here is the ants or spiders, whatever the heck they're supposed to be. They actually are 10 times slower than they should be. I'm assuming that was just the potential of the console itself, or the handheld, I guess you want to call it, where they're supposed to be there, but for whatever reason they just don't appear, or appear extremely slowly. So right here again, if you look at the totem, you can actually see the thing going down, which is pretty hilarious. Also, it uses the exact same process as the Master System, where the totem is already out and you have to grab an Ankh and then put it down in order for it to go down and work, and not coming from the ground to from the ground up back down like you would see for the NES. Everything is the same, where the Dino Boss does not kill you going right. Like, for instance, when you're supposed to go right, you're supposed to end up dying because you'll fall through the Dino. But for the Sega versions of the game, they actually made a diagonal ground, so you just go down and then go right back up, and you'll be perfectly fine, no problem. So for the fossil section, the one scary thing is, I think it's the next one, where if you look at the pterodactyl, he'll just zoom by you, and you need to either know that he's there or wait for him. Like right here, I'm waiting for the platform, and then there he comes, and he's actually a lot faster than what it seems. He actually ended up killing me a few times. So right here I show off that you can go down the Dino Boss, no problem, and then he spits out the 1-up when you are done. Checkpoints in the middle of the Dino, after the Dino Boss / before you see the X-ray. So here, one major difference as well is not anything actually different. It's just the fact that the boss looks different. I have no idea why they ended up wanting to make this boss in particular different versus all the other bosses, but I actually like the look of him, because even though he looks nothing like the NES, which he should be, which is, you know, like a big fat, not bald dude, but the big fat dude from the NES. I wanted to say his boss, but it's definitely not the boss. They just ended up showing him like a scientist, and right there, showing you the differences between the two maps. The major difference is, even though you do start in the exact same spot, Marge only appeared for me in floor 2, and Maggie is still in door 4 on the left side, versus everywhere for the Master System. But this right here is the place where everything has changed. So even though everything is still the same, it contains one major glitch, and the glitch so happens to be the one thing that I wish actually ended up existing in the NES, or for any matter, all the other games, and that's the fact that you can pick up more than 4 power rods. You should only be able to pick up 4 power rods, but in this version, for whatever reason, you can pick them all up, no problem. So if you try picking up more than 4 power rods in any version besides the Game Gear, when you go over the power rod, you'll be on it, but you won't pick it up. So if you jump into a power rod in this version, so right there I have 4. Any other version, you touch another power rod and you won't pick it up, but in this version, even though you already have 4 power rods, you'll actually end up picking up the next power rod regardless. So right here I have 4. The goal is still 16. I'll end up picking up the power rod, and even though you won't see it in your UI because you're only supposed to have 4, right there, boosh, it disappears. So you actually have 5 power rods now and not 4. And when I accidentally found this while speedrunning the game, I was so surprised. I was like, yeah, this is by far the best mechanic, besides the not having to pick up any goals that would have been fine in all the other versions. So can you imagine, like in the Amiga, where you can skip all of the goals as well as pick up all the power rods without having to visit Marge whatsoever or the basement, other than the one time where your goal has to be reached to 1 for Maggie to give up the final power rod? Would have been so fantastic. But the reason why, in my personal ranking, the Game Gear is so low in my ranking is, again, it's the camera. If it wasn't for the camera, believe me, this version would be just as high as the Amiga, where you can skip all the goals. But really, again, the only reason the camera is so bad is because of both the mall and the circus. The circus, really, it's only effective, well, I wanted to say just in the end, but that's not true, is when the mutants come out, the slingshots are, you know, the little dudes shooting from their slingshots, it's so bad. Like, you'll always be taking damage, or you constantly have to stop and go, just so you can watch out from whatever the heck is happening. So instead of just simply having the camera a little bit away from Bart, or even more of a zoom in, so right here I hand in my 8 power rods, so now I'm down from 16 to 8. So obviously right there just shows you that the power rods have been collected. But anyways, right here, no soft lock, because they ended up removing one of the nuclear pots, or whatever, barrels, there you go, nuclear barrels, unlike the Master System, where door 3 actually ends up soft locking you on the far right, because they ended up removing one of the mutants, which is kind of hilarious. I forgot what I was saying, so I'm just gonna move on. But yeah, that's the reason why the Game Gear is so low. Like, the camera, if it weren't for that camera, everything would have been so much better. And as you can tell, dying actually ends up warping you. Sometimes it'll warp you further into the floor. Like, for instance, it'll put you on a different door entrance that you came from. Sometimes it'll appear you in the exact same spot. I honestly don't remember which one is which, so if you were to want to speedrun this version, all you would have to do is find out where every death ends up taking you, and actually using those deaths to help you. Like, for instance, if I were to die here in floor 5, you'll actually end up spawning all the way on the far left door 5, so right here through this wall, where another power rod would end up waiting for you. I believe. I could be wrong. But right here, end up handing in the last 8. So even though it looked like I was far behind from the Master System, I actually end up being a lot further. So now I'm actually going to Maggie to get the final power rod while the Master System is still trying to go to the basement to do the final 2 hand-ins. Then we get to check out what the ending looks like. And I can tell you right now, it is way better than what the Master System gave you, even though it looks so much pretty compared to the NES, and it's basically in the same era. I have no idea why they ended up doing the version that they chose for the Master System. So here you can actually end up moving during the end countdown goal. So far everything looks the same. Little baby Bart's going through the machine, no idea what that means. Master System is finally done. We move on over, so obviously a lot more text. And then right there, take one note, Bart is not in this cutscene, so even though we have the 4 heads plus Bart, they actually ended up removing Bart entirely. So right here in the death screen, they look pretty much the same, but if you pay attention again to the Game Gear, you'll actually end up having a graphical glitch happen again. So there you can see the 2 Barts just constantly show up only in the intro. I have no idea if this happens in the original console or not, but again, if you know, please let me know, or comment. There you can see the Barts just constantly mess up even further as the intro cutscene happens, but as soon as you press start, the glitch ends up clearing itself off. But there is the final personal ranking. I'll be explaining this more in depth again in one more bonus 10th video, but as far as comparisons, everything is done. I really hope you guys enjoyed. I did my best to find every single difference that the game Bart vs. the Space Mutant had to offer for all the other 9 different versions besides the NES that was released, and obviously including the NES as a base for what to look out for. It was extremely fun, extremely exhausting, where I actually ended up having to, stop certain things or stop doing certain things to just be able to finish everything. But regardless, everything is finally done. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please let me know. For now, this is the final video. I'll be doing who knows what, most likely end up continuing doing more Super Mario Maker videos, try and make those a little bit better. And for now, I'm gonna head out. Hope you guys had fun. Stick around for the final video coming out super soon. It won't be taking me very long. And peace out.